All right, welcome. Let me just get things set up here. We are going to work on that Swiss cheese block some more. First video was all about linear function, learning how to use it and everything else. Second video, we looked at design intent and how we could make that easier to edit. And what we did was, that's crazy. I don't know if it was flashing on the preview for you, but it's flashing for me. The design intent, we made it so that we could expand the block size while keeping the holes exactly where they are as far as symmetry goes and as far as remaining true to center. This video, what I want to do, it'll be the last video we do on this block besides the dimensioning component of it. We will be expanding it kind of up in scale and allowing the holes to go up in scale with it, okay? And so, again, this goes back to is what types of revisions would need to be made to this part and how would that look? And can I design it in a way that revisions are easier? So let's just say, for instance, this block may go up in scale, and when it does, we want the holes to locate themselves along with that scale. We're not going to make the holes go bigger with the scale. What I mean is, if it's the 3x3, it becomes a 5x5. Instead of the holes staying in that 3x3 square like we did in the last video, they space themselves equidistant across that 5x5 thing. And there's a couple things we're just going to have to know for a fact. The whole distance from the edge is going to be one of those things we're going to want to know for sure. Other than that, I'm not sure we can use linear pattern. Once we get into this, I'm going to kind of play around with it. I'm not sure we can use linear pattern from a feature standpoint. I think we might be able to from the sketch standpoint. There's a linear pattern function in the sketch toolbar, but I'm not thinking so from a 3D standpoint. And if we were to, I think it'll lead to more clicks and more deletes and more number changing to get the revisions we want to make. So let's just play around. Whoop, doop, all right, had a little vocal malfunction there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this, and you guys can. I wish my toolbar, my screen toolbar, I could just click and drag. That I have to hide it and slow down our recording time. We're just exiting out of that. I don't know there. I'm going to duplicate. You can just right click and you can just duplicate a workspace. Okay, and so now what we'll do is go ahead and I'm going to go into sketch one. We're going to do this from last few videos. We've been doing it from a scratch standpoint. I'm going to do it as if we're editing, just an editing part, because editing skills are useful to know as well. So let's go in. We're going to make it a 3. All right. The other thing we're going to do is make this a center point rectangle instead of what it is. So here's a cool thing. If we make this a center point rectangle, do you think we'll still have a block by the time it's done? Because in order to do so, we more or less will have to delete this whole rectangle. We'll have no sketch. It might not even let us. There's got to be a way. I think it will let us. I'm not sure why I wouldn't do it as a whole group. I must have been doing something wrong. But let's go ahead and change this to a center point rectangle. And then let's go ahead and change the dimensions. So we're going to do 3. And then if you've been watching the other videos, you should know, right, my dimension tool's on, that we don't, if it's a square, we're not going to dimension the other side. What are we going to do? We're going to use a constraint. What constraint are we going to use? We're going to use the equal constraint. And that's all we need to do. Now let's go ahead and check and let's see what's happened here. Okay, everything over here has came up red, basically saying we don't work now because you changed our roots. Okay, if you go back into our roots, we were based entirely on sketch 1, and you completely changed that. So I'm not sure if there's any salvation that can be had here. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these, and then we're going to proceed with making our making our holes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do another sketch in the front plane. And this time I'm going to use a center point rectangle again. Notice the extrude remain. We didn't have to redo the extrude. And I'm going to just locate it like so. And then we're going to go ahead and make these all construction lines. Now that they're construction lines, we're going to go ahead and dimension this out. Now, the distance for the holes from the edge, we're going to go ahead and assume that whatever modification we make to this part, the distance from the edge will remain the same. Whether if you think about like a head gasket or an oil pan gasket, that edge to first hole location is about the same across all of them. Or if there was a scaled down or scaled up version, you could envision that being about the same. But again, design intent, thinking about it. And I'm trying to see, let's see, how far in our original plans do we make that? We made it 0.5 from the top and 0.5 from the bottom. Now, this is a 3x3 square. And what we need to do is make the square inside of it also be 0.5 from all edges. So basically, we can take 3, we can subtract 0.5 from this side, subtract 0.5 from this side. 0.5 is the equivalent of a half in a fraction form. 3 minus 1/2 will get you 2.5. 2.5 minus half will get you 2. Some of my YouTubers probably come on like, come on, that's common sense. But depending on the age group I'm teaching, you may be surprised that, okay, see what I'm doing here? We are about to create a double dimension, which would work. I could dimension it and it's black. Let's not do that. We know it's going to be a square. We know it's going to stay that way. So let's go ahead and make these equal using a constraint. Excellent. So we're 1/2 inch away from the edge. We're 1/2 inch away from the edge. We got a 3x3, 2x2 square. And then we're going to add some more construction lines here, going from midpoint to midpoint. And then the same thing going from midpoint to midpoint. We're going to select those and hit Q on our keyboard to make those construction lines. Now, that gives us the location of these 3 holes, these 3 holes, and these 3 holes. So now what we can do is go ahead and sketch those holes out. And this is where we're going to play around with there's a pattern. Okay, we can do a linear pattern with sketches just like we did with our features. And the only thing I'm not sure of here is this one would override. We can delete this. This is 0. I guess it is already set at 1. Funny thing is, it automatically knows that I probably want these here. The thing I'm afraid of is if I hit check, all right, and we got these 1s. Can we make them more visible? If I do want to make this bigger, I would have to go into that sketch pattern and change more than just this guy. Let me show you what I'm thinking here. I don't even know if I'm right. Okay, let's say I want to make this 2.5. 2.5, yeah, that will. Okay, see how the holes don't remain symmetric? Okay, and so what that would mean is we'd have to come in here, do more math, and change that math to figure out what's 2.5 and what. So we'd have to make this like what? Instead of 1 inch and 1 inch across 2, you'd have 1.25 and 1.25 across. Okay, now we're back to symmetric. Here's what I'm thinking we can do instead. Let's try this. We're going to go make this back to 2. And we're going to make this back to 1. And just get us back to where we started. And then I'm actually going to come in here to the sketch. And I'm actually going to delete these guys. this linear pattern that we use in the sketch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a circle, and I'm going to develop the relationship that it's got to be coincident to these points that we created with our construction line. All right. And it doesn't look like I fully, once I'm done with these circles, I'm going to go back and delete the 3x and the 1 spacing. So it looks like our linear pattern sketch entity is still alive and well. Well, maybe not well, but it's still got some things in here. So I want to get out of that circle command, select this 1, delete it, select this 3x and delete it. Now we've got all these circles, all different sizes. We're going to dimension 1. In our original video, we did 0.5, so I'm going to do that. Instead of dimensioning every single one, what can we use? You should know this by now, the equal constraint. So I'm just going to select them all and set them equal. Constraints equal. Awesome. Now we have fully defined circles that'll act as our holes. Now the only issue, I'm seeing there's a blue dot here, and I'm trying to figure out why we have this blue dot. And whenever I run into a ill-defined part of the component, I usually just click and drag and see what I can get it to do. And I'm not sure. We can also turn on show constraints, and it should show us that, okay, we have those two sides being equal. We have this side parallel to the other side, and then we do have that lined up there. So what is it that's holding me up? I'm not sure. It's the only blue dot on the entire thing. Maybe it's the circle. Can I move the circle? Did it miss its point? I'm going to try something here. All right, for the interest of this video, we're going to move past that and go ahead. And now that we have all of this taken care of, we're going to go ahead and just hit check. And then, oh, before we do anything though, I just noticed that in our sketch 2, well, I thought I noticed, it must be how it looks when you preview it and it's inside of a part. Okay, first, all right, here's the difference between hidden lines and construction lines. This is helpful for print reading as well. See how these are equidistant dashes? That's hidden lines. That means you can see through the part, the feature. Because we drew this in the front plane's in the middle of the part, so that's why it's showing up as dash. These are construction lines with the intermittent dots and dashes. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and create an extrude. And what we're going to do is extrude, let's see, parts of sketch 2. All right, it knows we want to extrude the whole. Remember to set it for through all. That way, if you come back later to change the thickness, it'll automatically do it. Now, the issue is we must have had extrude add selected. So let's just go back in to make an edit. Extrude, we want to make that say remove through all, and now we're good to go. And that's how we do it. Now, let's go back in and change this sketch, and let's experiment with the idea of changing its size and if it'll maintain the kind of constraints we want it to maintain. So we'll make it a 5x5. We get this happening. We still get the holes just like they are, but instead of going in and editing a linear pattern, which would mean we have to change the spacing and have to possibly change the quantity. No, I guess that gets into a whole nother beast. Let's try this. We're going to do this. 2, I guess we still have to do a level of math if we want to be 0.5 away from the edge. So we just can make this 4. Okay, and then if we hit check, we end up with this like so. You may decide the linear pattern way is better or this way is better. The important part is that you're thinking about these things as you're designing. You're not just modeling up, kind of biting off steps at a time without thinking about your past or future steps, Because what that'll do, it'll create a model that'll give you a headache, just like we did at the beginning of the last video where we opened this file, try to make it a 4x4, and the holes were out of the way. So then you got to go into linear function, you got to go into edit that, and then it's just a downward spiral usually. So that's the main point of this video. Here's another way to do this one to maintain it, if this is the way it's going to go. That's all. That's all we're doing. Hope you enjoyed it.